I think we're on. I think we're live. So hi everyone, hello cam followers. Welcome to this evening's talk. We have the lovely Gemma Hodson here with us, who's going to have a discussion with us about slippery floors, things that are actually going to affect our dogs more than we realise they do, which is something I'm going to learn today as well. So I'll pass over to her to introduce herself. Just before I do so, I'm just going to say a big thank you to our sponsor. So bear with me while I get this up. Yeah, so we just want to say a big thank you to Big Barker, who are our sponsors at the moment. They've been incredibly supportive and their products are amazing. If you haven't seen it, have a look on their website. They're very, very popular amongst a lot of us. And I've heard it from a couple of the girls that actually are very comfortable sleeping on themselves. So that says a lot about how comfortable they are. Right, okay. I'm going to try and add on to here. Oh, actually, I'll pop this off for a second. Do you want to introduce yourself, Gemma, and a bit about what you do, how you came to do this, and
crikey. So, for those that don't know me, I'm Gemma. I am the owner and founder of Dynamic Dog. So I have lived a life with dogs. I originally grew up in a house full of show dogs from the age of about 6. So I actually grew up in an environment where I saw good conformation and good movement because it was key to success. I didn't appreciate that world at the time. I was dragged to every single dog show on the planet. I actually decided I didn't want to work with dogs, believe it or not. Went off to fulfill a dream of working with horses. So I went off and studied equine science at Hartpury College for 3 years. I then ended up having a horse that sparked my interest into pain and behaviour. She wound up with gastric ulcers, which kind of led me down that road. I then unfortunately had to give my horses up due to an accident I had where I broke my neck, but I'm all right. I'm fine.
Oh my goodness, wow.
And I fell back to dogs to fill the void. So I ended up getting a lovely English bulldog who I attended multiple puppy classes and follow-on classes with. And even then I was spotting kind of posture, conformation and movement anomalies with dogs in those classes. And I saw a lot of owners that were unaware of what was going on, and trainers and behaviourists as well that were teaching these classes that were unaware of maybe how the dog was put together was actually kind of adding to their behaviour issues. So I decided to go off and learn more. I have done quite a few hands-on therapies. Didn't feel that actually kind of gave me what I needed. So I then went off and trained as a myofunctional rehabilitation therapist. I've also been trained in hydrotherapy. I'm now studying veterinary physiotherapy as well. And currently I actually teach other trainers and behaviourists how to spot the potential signs of pain and discomfort in the dogs that they are working with, and how they can actually convey and relay that information to vets and to help their clients more. So that's what I do currently.
Amazing. Great. Fabulous. And this evening we're going to be talking about slippery floors.
Yes.
How we can, I think, obviously most people who will be joining this will have a dog that they've got concern about arthritis or some form of mobility problems. And I think as a vet, this is something that comes up in consults sometimes. Not terribly often, no. Probably more after having gone through this. I think we'll change our minds about how often we do talk about this. But yeah, it's a really interesting area, actually, really fundamental.
It is, and I think it doesn't just affect dogs that have mobility issues. It affects young, it affects able and healthy dogs as well. So it's although it's we really should be kind of like making sure that if our dog does have physical issues, that we should be doing the best possible thing that we can do around the home to accommodate them. But maybe it should start kind of in puppyhood and kind of like move forward from there, really. And maybe our dogs might not have as many problems as they do these days. So it's certainly interesting.
Right. So I'm going to add up see if this works.
Yay!
There you go.
There you go. So I've got a few kind of little kind of boring geeky bits smattered in between some kind of like juicy kind of facts and information for you guys. And I've got some cool videos to show as well. However, I'm going to kind of say that there's a bit of a trigger warning with some of them. Some of them are hard to watch. But I wanted to show them to you because I think that's really, really important. And I wanted to really drive home exactly, the effects that slippery floors can actually have on our animals that come to live with us in our home. So I thought I'd start off by literally kind of going through what classifies as a slippery floor. So that's anything that's hard, smooth, it may or may not have a shine or a gloss to it. So we're looking at things like vinyl, lino, which are not the same thing, as I found out when I was doing research, and tiles, hardwood flooring, and obviously the main one being laminate. And as with all man-made items, they are made for the convenience of us humans, without giving much forethought to the animals that might actually live with us. And the benefits for us are that it's actually often quite cheap to buy and install. It looks great, super easy to clean and hygienic. It's hard wearing, more hard wearing than carpet. So it lasts a lot longer, because carpet can be susceptible to wear and tear, staining and fading and things like that. And it can start to look quite tatty as it gets older. But I wanted to kind of stress that these surfaces aren't just found in the home. They are also in village halls and community centres where we do puppy classes and dog training. They are also in pubs that we might take our dogs to for kind of like, if you've got a dog-friendly pub, for a meal out, or if you've just got a dog that you like taking down the pub for a pint. But they're also in, and don't shoot me, veterinary practices, in veterinary waiting rooms, in the consultation rooms. And in fact, I had to take my 11-month-old Staffy to a vet just recently to have a CT scan on his hind end. And, walked straight in. He started scrabbling around, couldn't get his purchase. And I ended up having to pick him up because he was in there for some physical issues that I'd spotted. So yeah, they're everywhere. It's not just in the home. So we need to be kind of like mindful of actually where we take our dogs to and how that might affect them as well. So it's just not physically tough to negotiate for dogs either. So it's not just the physical aspect. There's also the emotional toll as well. And, dogs do remember things. So they will remember slipping on a floor. This can cause anxiety and fear about negotiating specific areas in the home where these floors are. And it might even be throughout the entire home that you've got these floors. And this may actually cause the dog to stay in one area that they feel most comfortable in, which can often lead to being in isolation away from the rest of the family. So there then may actually be an element of depression that comes in here for these dogs as well. Because, they are actually quite sociable animals, and especially with their family. So they end up kind of like just staying in their beds because they really do fear kind of like walking around the house and just getting up and moving from one room to another. So they might not actually show any outward signs of distress like this dog. They can often kind of internalize emotions. So, some of the clues can be really, really subtle. But, quite often, when you speak to a behaviourist and kind of take a little bit of a closer look, or maybe even video your dog and slow things down, you'll actually start to see exactly what is going on for these dogs. So I thought I'd talk about why it's so difficult for dogs. So first of all, it's the claws, okay? Dogs use their claws to walk, trot, canter, and gallop, as well as ambulating between postures, so sit, down, stand. And they help them grip so that they can move more easily. And when they come into contact with a smooth, hard surface, there is nowhere for those claws to dig into. And then the dog starts slipping and sliding. So it's much like if you wear a pair of stilettos So you've got the really smooth kind of sole for the ball of your foot, and then you've got that spike at the end. Or dogs equivalent have got 4 spikes and a smooth surface underneath. So really and truly, they're just traveling around, and they just cannot get purchased. So we also need to consider the dog's paw pads as well. These are not rubbery at all. They're not kind of like our own feet. In fact, they are pretty smooth themselves, if not sometimes maybe a little rough around the edges. Perfect for outdoor terrain, running up hills, clambering over rocks, you name it. So again, there isn't much grip there when faced with a slippery floor. And then that brings us on to the paw fur. So even a small amount of foot fuzz will decrease grip further. In fact, the longer the foot fur, the worse the slipping will be, because it will end up covering some of the pad. So, what small amount that pad of grip that pad did have, it diminishes even further. And if we take a look at the paw pads on this dog, you'll actually see what I mean about how little grip that they actually do have. And there's a little bit of shine on some of it as well. You can see from a reflection. So with dogs, it will then be like the equivalent of you wearing fluffy socks on your hands and your feet, and you trying to negotiate a slippery floor on all 4 feet. So I thought I'd share this. This is quite fun. If you wanted to see what it was like for your dog, that has fluffy feet, then I urge you to try this. So this is a video that was done by a good friend and a colleague of mine and a graduate of mine, Tessa Saville-Cole. She runs Puzzle Puck, and she really wanted to kind of put herself in her dog's paws and see what it was like to try and negotiate a slippery floor. And what she's actually doing, she put a little treat on a bowl, and she was bending down trying to pick that treat up with her mouth, just on all 4s with socks. And she, as you can see, she just cannot get any grip or any purchase on that floor. So yeah, try that at home. Make sure you don't slip and fall and head nut the floor. If you do, record it so we can all see it. You can break, as they say. So yeah, just give it a go, or even just try, walking on some laminate flooring with just socks on your feet and see how far you get. It is quite slippery. So it's bad for puppies. It's not great for puppies at all. And we could really do with taking a look at what we line whelping boxes with, as there have been some studies done where they found that a Hessian sack type material was best for allowing puppies full grip in order to move about and to find mum in order to suckle. It helps to develop normal joint function and natural development of the limbs, and reduces puppy laxity, or laxity, should I say, which is one of the many contributing factors to hip dysplasia. And this study that I'm sharing on screen now in particular showed that puppies raised on slippery floors are actually 1.6 times more likely to develop hip dysplasia. And with hip dysplasia, that it will inevitably pave the way for arthritis if it isn't picked up and supported. So we also know that puppies are pretty darn wobbly for the first maybe 3 to maybe 6 months of their lives. And this is due to them still developing, bones are still growing, cartilage is still forming, and this continues to do so for at the very least 18 months, depending on breed and size of dog. And this goes for their muscular systems and tendons and ligaments too. So it's you're putting basically an immature body that's also still developing their vestibular balance as well, and their proprioception. So proprioception helps with balance and orientation and a sense of where certain body parts are in space. And effectively, they're out of balance for a fair few months. So when you place an unstable frame on an unstable surface, you create the potential for an increase in abnormal movement in underdeveloped joints. And there will be hidden injuries. And those hidden injuries, might then go on to pave the way for osteoarthritis. We'll get onto injuries in in a minute, but the potential for injury increases further when we throw balls and toys on it for our puppies and young dogs to chase, because it looks so goddamn cute and they're sliding across and they're doing a Scooby-Doo trying to get traction and things. And you know, a lot of people find it funny, and I think I said to you, Charlotte, before we went live, the internet is a dark place, and all I had to type into Google is puppy slipping or dog slipping on floors, and up came a load of YouTube videos where I've snatched these from, and all of them were like funny dogs slipping on surfaces. And all of the comments in there were, you know, ha ha ha, lol, laughing, crying emojis, all of those. And, you know, it's pretty scary. So, you know, this kind of chasing and sliding and slipping after as well, where you see this dog pick up the ball, he still can't get purchase. And it causes the front and hind limbs to splay out to the sides as they then try to stop and grab the ball and pick it up and carry on running with it. Some dogs will actually tense up when they start to slide, and they try to the slide, and then what then happens is that they end up twisting their spine and often flip and fall on their sides. And then there are times that dogs just end up sliding so fast that they hit walls, cupboards, or, you know, other furniture as well. So they're not just, you know, dealing with the slip, they're dealing with the impact at the end as well. And on my last talk for CAM, I talked about the dangers of ball throwing and how it can increase the likelihood of osteoarthritis. This is no different. This is no different at all. We're just you know, dealing with different forces here, and it's the gravity of you know, taking the dog in one direction because they just cannot get purchased. Your dog does not have to be lame to show that it's in pain, and they will struggle. And you know, really struggle to weight shift to compensate for even minor injuries, you know, and they will start to do it, and you might not notice it to start off with because it will be really, really subtle. And then if we add liquid to a slippery surface, it then becomes treacherous. So we can include wet and muddy paws in this. So if your dog's just come out from the back garden and it's been raining, you know, they become lethal. Potentially it's like walking on ice. And all this dog wanted to do was to get to his water bowl, but his owner had been cleaning, and, you know, he runs full pelt, skids, smacks into his water bowl, and then the kitchen cupboards as well. And then he really struggles to get his purchase back in order to carry on then to his bowl and take a drink of water. Poor dog.
Yeah, that's not very nice at all.
It's not. So potential injuries, they can range from something really minor to something really major. So minor might be a bit of a pulled muscle, and then we go on to sprains and strains, a few trigger points, maybe some spasms, torn or ruptured ligaments, occasional spinal misalignment. And I mean, if it's ever so slight, this might not be picked up on a veterinary exam, and it might be something that a chiropractor or an osteopath might be able to take a look at. You know, and then we can range into things like luxations or dislocations and fractures. So, I mean, a fracture doesn't have to be a full-on break. It can be like a crack or, you know, a partial break, things like that. And these might go unnoticed initially. So, and they might be really, really subtle and not appear to affect the dog or do anything too dramatic at first. But then, you know, pain is unique to the individual, and we cannot 100% say if a dog is pain-free or not. So we should never disregard anything. So, you know, no matter how small the subtle change, it should always be noted and kind of questioned as to, you know, could it be something more? So don't believe me how bad slipping on a surface could be? This dog is currently working with one of my graduates, Jo Hines. She's absolutely amazing. This dog's called Milo, and he's a very gorgeous chocolate lab. And it was initially thought that Milo had hurt his hip after he'd slipped twice during the winter just gone. He'd been signed off by the vet as being okay, just being a bit battered and bruised. And he was displaying some worrying behaviours more and more, such as getting spooked by people and other dogs in the street. He would start lunging, barking, be really, really restless and just wouldn't settle. Joe was drafted in to go and work with him because they thought it was just behavioural issues. But Joe spotted straight away that something wasn't right with his movement, and she put her dynamic dog skills to good use. It took 5 vet visits and a second opinion to get to the bottom of what was going on for Milo. And what had actually happened was that he had completely dislodged his kneecap when he'd slipped, and he actually had to have it operated on. Bless him. So he'd been living with that for 6 months before it was actually found. Poor little guy. He looks very sorry for himself.
Yeah, he does.
He does. And then what happens when your dog gets to kind of their veteran years is their proprioception and their balance then starts to deteriorate as well, as does their core strength, depending on what their daily activities are and kind of what you kind of do with the dog. I know some people do a lot of dog sports, so it might not affect them as much. But so once again, we see the dog is struggling to actually stop their paws from sliding and to keep their balance. So just like puppies, the dog ends up with strains, tears, and possibly more serious injuries that cause pain, creating tension, which leads to overcompensation in both posture and movement. And then this causes more pain and discomfort in other areas that are overcompensating for the fact that there's another injury elsewhere in the body. So then we start to have a vicious cycle of pain and discomfort, and then it becomes really difficult maybe to get hold of if it hasn't been spotted and hasn't been supported. So the damage done by long-term overcompensation can end up being just as debilitating as the original injury itself. So you can wind up with cartilage damage because it puts extra pressure within those joints, because the dog's having to shift weight around to take some pressure off maybe a sore limb or sore body part. Mm-hmm. So big trigger warning for this one, okay? And this is an older dog, a veteran dog, clearly struggling, clearly has obviously physical and mobility issues, but he's also been placed on a slippery floor. You can see he just hasn't got the strength to stay up. He hasn't got the strength to keep his limbs together, and he's got stiff muscles, stiff joints. He's just floundering around all over the place. It really is difficult to watch. So I apologise if this kind of like shocks, but I'm hoping that it will shock somebody into maybe putting a rug down for their dog.
I know, I just feel like I want to go in there now.
I know, it's heartbreaking, so heartbreaking, bless him. So 4 paws aren't always better than 2 feet, believe it or not. When we take a look at the weight distribution of a healthy dog, we can see that they carry more weight on the front than they do on the rear. Combine that with the downward force of gravity, and then what you get is kind of like a sliding happens. So the limbs start to slide outwards because of the downward forces of gravity, and obviously having to try and spread that weight over 4 limbs rather than just 2. But add physical issues such as maybe arthritis to this dog, and what you end up with is weight shifting forwards, weight shifting backwards from side to side to offload painful joints. And as I said, this will increase joint pressures, putting more strain on the healthier limbs. So then when you add a slippery floor to that, you can basically double the effects. Even a healthy dog, due to weight distribution, and gravitational forces, are automatically going to have their limbs pushed outwards. It's inevitable. Introduce a dog suffering with physical issues such as arthritis to a laminate floor, it becomes more difficult for a dog to stay upright. They slip more, they slide more. The potential for injury is increased. Muscles that were already tense from overcompensating are then asked to work harder in order to help the dog to stay upright. And as you could see with that dog before, it just wasn't happening. And then we're back to the same injuries that can occur, such as muscle strains, tears, trigger points, spasms, and increased inflammation of arthritic joints. That's going to happen as well. So really, we should be doing more for dogs with physical issues, for sure. So just how difficult is it for a dog to negotiate? Okay, so let me introduce you to Poppy, the Irish Water Spaniel, who's a long-term client of mine. And she's got amazing owners called Simon and Kath. I need to give them a shout out for this video for me. I've shared Poppy's journey in many a case study and many of my presentations. She has spondylosis, she has hip dysplasia, and she has some joint degeneration of her left shoulder. So if we actually take a look at how she's actually just kind of posturally at the beginning, when it restarts again, on a shiny tiled floor, her head was low, her weight was shifting forwards, her hind limbs try and tuck underneath her for support, and then you see that left hind slide out. She didn't want that to happen. She was actually trying to move her bottom in and underneath her in order to go into a sit, but her legs just got away from her because she didn't have purchase underneath her in order to hold her posture and maintain that position. So if we just kind of like watch her then try and get back up, you see the front paws start to slide, back feet are already sliding, front paws carry on sliding. Bless her heart. Ooh, up. She's got hip dysplasia. So, not only is that debilitating in itself, she's then got to try and struggle with a polished surface where, she's just not got control of her limbs. We all know what it's like when we go out, when we have a little bit of snow and the whole of the UK grinds to a halt. It is treacherous, really is treacherous for these dogs. So if we just carry on watching her feet, bless her, as she tries to stand up. I hope she tries to stand up. So there you go. She's still sliding. It's so interesting when you start to slow things down. Bless her. So for comparison, we asked her to do the same thing on firm footing. So this is her going through those motions again, and you'll see that back end is rock solid. It doesn't slip, it doesn't slide. She's able to go down into a down easily. Even when she reaches up for a treat, she's not slipping. Those feet aren't kind of sliding away from her. She's easily able to kind of reach up and grab that treat. And Poppy does not miss an opportunity for a treat, let me tell you. Bless her heart. And what you'll see in a minute is that she'll come back up to a sit. Nothing slips, nothing slides. Super easy. A little hop in just to reposition herself. Yeah, she is amazing. And I can see there's people commenting, it makes such a difference when you have the comparison of the two, to see actually how much work it is for a dog just to do simple movements between, down, sit, stand. It's incredible just how much just one thing can make a huge impact on a dog. Even though she's got maybe her front feet on the hardwood floor in there, she's not going anywhere because at least 2 feet are on solid ground. Bless her.
So easy to do and such a big difference.
Yeah. And I have to say, credit to Simon and Kath when I pointed out that she was struggling, because what we noticed was that even when she was just walking, she was doing these tiny little kind of slips with her feet as she was walking along. As soon as we pointed out that, they got a ton of rugs, made sure she had a walkway, made sure she had areas where she was comfortable and could lie down and be with her family. And you couldn't ask for better owners, really, when you've got a dog like this. So she's so amazing. And she was so pleased with herself. At the end, she actually does a little bounce Bless her. She's like, yay. She's such a cool dog. Such a good dog. She's very pleased with her efforts. Look. Woo!
That's brilliant.
So, dogs really do know best. If you currently have a slippery floor at home and you don't believe me right now, just put one mat down. Just one mat down. It doesn't have to be huge, and just watch what your dog does. Because, for me, proof of the pudding is in the eating. And I assure you, your dog will gravitate towards that mat. So this video kind of highlights what I mean. Yeah, another video from the darkest depths of the internet. So this dog, he's playing with a light reflection, and you'll notice he comes off, his back end slips away from him. So he goes back to that mat to ensure that his hind feet stay on, so he can get that purchase and carry on playing with that light reflection. It's incredible. Pouncing on it using his front paws. He's got his back paws on the mat, so we can really get that purchase to carry on playing. And this is quite scary. I do apologise. I should have put trigger warning on this, really, shouldn't I?
No, I think that's a lovely picture. I actually really like it. And look at them all.
I know, it's scary. That's just half the dogs that I used to have. So these are all our show dogs that we had. So Welsh Springers, Italian Spaniel, and there's a black and white Cocker Spaniel in there for good mix. So this is a hilarious photo of me in 1996 when I was at age 16, looking like a lot like Dave Grohl, who played the drums in the Nirvana era. And yeah, about half the dogs that we had at the time. Now, for a long time, we didn't have laminate flooring in our house. Okay. And when we did finally get it, it was only put down in one room, and that was my family's dining room. Everywhere else either had flagstone flooring or carpet. But the funny thing that I remember from that time is that every dog would stop at the threshold to the dining room door when the door was open. But the dogs were actually actively kept out of that room anyway, because my mum was a bit precious about her dining room. But what was also apparent for us is that after we had about 14 dogs in total, none of our dogs in the whole time that we had those that you can see on screen suffered with arthritis. Wow. Not one. So thinking of how we know that arthritis is a welfare concern in dogs, I'm going to get some boring, geeky statistics here for you guys. Might interest you to know that laminate flooring was actually invented in 1977, and it was then introduced into the European market at the end of the late 80s. The first factory for laminate flooring was built in 1988. 1994, there was a huge marketing campaign in the US that then led to the floor's popularity increasing in the early 2000s. And then it really took off in the UK and in Europe in 2006. Now, I would be really interested to know if there's a correlation between the increase in arthritis cases and the increase in the popularity of laminate flooring. I don't know if Hannah has the stats on that, but I'm sure she could probably dig them out and kind of see if they correlate, because, you know, see if those two run parallel would shed quite a lot of light and be rather interesting to kind of delve into for my geeky brain anyway. Definitely.
Absolutely.
So what can you do? So there's so much you can do. Paw care is really, really essential. Keep an eye on the fur growing between and out of the underneath of your dog's paws. Have a look on the nail length. Make sure that you keep them nice and short so they don't go overgrown and start to curl under. Also check the condition of the paw pads as well. If they become overly dry and crusty, then it may be worth speaking to a vet, or indeed your groomer, to ask if there's anything that you can do to improve this. There are lots of different paw balms and waxes out there. But do kind of obviously get advice from a vet, because we don't want dogs licking things that could be potentially harmful to them, obviously. but can have some excellent resources on how you can adapt your home and enable your dog to live comfortably. But where flooring is concerned, I don't think that you can beat a carpet for a dog, or a rug, or a runner, or a mat. But there's such things as coatings that you can paint on floors that can give them traction to make them a little bit more grippy. There's grippy strips, and specialised flooring for dogs, as well as runners, and kind of all sorts of things. So there's so much that can be done. So there you go. That's my little kind of presentation for you guys, and I hope it's kind of got you thinking.
I think it's really helpful. It's got me thinking. When next time I go into work, I'm going to be watching all the dogs come in and what they do on the floor. Do you know, I know it sounds really silly, but so on our examination tables, I always make sure I put a towel on it mainly for small animals like rabbits, because you can see them panic when they're on a soft clear. But actually, you need to look down on the floor and check what we're getting these dogs to walk in on.
Absolutely. I mean, you can get rubber mats. I know I'm not saying fill your veterinary practice with rubber mats for horses, but you can get, those bath mats with the rubber suckers on. You can get really long ones of those. They could be mopped and disinfected as well. Yeah. So, I think just even providing a walkway and kind of areas for dogs that they can get a bit of purchase on, because obviously you guys are going to be seeing all these dogs with physical issues coming in for examinations, yet they're kind of going,
I can see someone asking that, why does the surgeon's office have tile floors? Because it's easy to clean, because we disinfect them twice a day.
I completely understand it. Totally understand it. But, I think we need to find other
a happy medium for those ones that come in and need that help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, you're bringing your carpets with you to the vet. You can do that if you like, but I think we need to address it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be arthritis friendly.
You can have like a sticker on your veterinary practice, maybe
this is a whole new campaign.
It is, absolutely. Hannah needs to kind of set up is your practice, arthritis dog friendly? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's something very easy we can do. Yeah. I will be keeping an eye out, and I think it's very easy just to get, like you said, a runner or something just into the consult room for just make it feel a bit more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Make it a lot easier for them. And thank you so much for your presentation. It was brilliant. It's given us a lot to think about, and given us a lot of information about actually this is bigger than just slipping and being a bit funny, and making them feel more confident. This is something that seriously could cause injury. There was someone who commented it earlier and said that actually, I think they said they took carpets with them to Airbnbs because they had two dogs that had to have cruciate surgery, and they'd learn it again. So it just shows, unfortunately, once you've been through it,
absolutely,
you realise that you don't want to have to learn the hard way.
No, that's the thing. And I remember seeing, it was a good few years ago now, I think it was something like the Yorkshire Vet or something like that. And it was a French Bulldog, adolescent kind of puppy, kind of, wasn't even a year old. And he'd come running in from the back garden, slipped on the tiled floor, smashed into the kitchen cupboards and broke the top off his femur. And he actually ended up, it was a total femoral hairrectomy that he actually ended up having to have, but again, that was slipping on floors. So it can, so a trivial little thing can actually impact massively on our dog. So definitely.
Well, great. More people coming to. As a groomer, I always use yoga mats on the table for dogs that are older and arthritic. Nice. I think we need to have a good think about that. Thank you so much. Right, I think that's going to be wrapped up. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think that was absolutely perfect. Please, if you've got any other questions, comments, anything, please comment on our page. Obviously, there's an awful lot of resources on the CAM pages, on the websites, and obviously on the YouTube channel as well. So if you've seen this and think, gosh, this is some really great ideas, I know Gemma's got some more videos with us that are incredibly helpful. So please do have a look. And I'd like to also mention a big thanks to Big Bark again. So if you're looking for beds for arthritic dogs, they're amazing. And I think that's everything. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you found it really interesting and informative. And yeah, I'll be taking some of this away as well. Thanks very much, guys.
Bye.